So, really happy to be with the best of the Venice Film Festival so far.
Thank you. I love your paint.
Thank you. You know, I was wondering why, if you thought back in 1993 that this movie could land finally in Venice.
Are you taping this?
Yes.
Okay. Now I know, because if you're taping this, then I would have more, hand movements like the Italians and things like that. No, I'm joking.
No, you just be yourself, it's enough.
Okay.
I like you.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I never thought of that, because it is very by chance, because when I was screening this, because when I was screening this film in Hong Kong, and by chance that Elena from Venice was in Hong Kong, so I said, I'm screening Boogie Street. It's an old film. She said, I like to watch. And so she went and then watched the film with a lot of people. But usually when you want to submit a film to the festival, it's very exclusive, right? But she watched the film with a lot of people in the preview house, and she loves the film. And so I sent the film to Venice, and then they decide to invite the film.
It's love, yes? Let me tell you about love. Love is like this hotel. People come in and out all the time. Sometimes there's long-term guests like me, but nothing stays forever. If you're good, they'll come back. If they don't come back, don't worry, it's not because you're bad. Sometimes they just want to try something different.
How it happened to be restored with Il Cinema Ritrovato? I don't even know that they have an Asian place.
I made 14 movies in my life, and I try to restore every movie. And so one by one, every year, I restore my movies, became a hobby. And so I restored Story of Rose, Peony Pavilion, Bichonnet, and I restored this Boogie Street. And then I think it was just by chance that when I was screening Boogie Street and the Venice, they came to Hong Kong. And I said, if you want to watch, you join and watch. So they watched the movie, and the movie was truly beautifully restored, and because you can see all the different ways of lights, changing of the lights from a yellow to blue and all that, and the acting, it was quite splendid. It's like made yesterday.
It is a very important and avant-garde movie, this one.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the audience why it is so important, Boogie Street?
Because Boogie Street, it is a turning point of my filmmaking career, if you can call it career. Because before Boogie Street, I make movies, the kind of a mainstream Hong Kong movie with big stars and romantic stories. But then, when I made the film that I made before Boogie Street was one of the top gross films in Hong Kong, then I think I want to take a break. So I went to Singapore and stayed 3 months in Singapore, and I decided I want to make the movie about the minorities. So that comes with the Boogie Street, because in the 80s, I was in Singapore. I saw the what you call the breakdown of the Boogie Street, because the Singapore government wants to have a very clean Singapore. So they tear down Boogie Street, And then they built another building about 3 blocks away, and so there was no more Boogie Street. But I was there before they tear it down. So I want to do something nostalgic about it.
Yeah, what do you miss the more about those times?
What?
What do you miss the more about those times?
About?
Those times you miss people, habits, freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Because life was tough, but at the same time was full of possibilities.
Yeah. That was, actually, that Boogie Street was a cradle for the minorities. In those days, that Boogie Street, they have good food, and then they have transvestites and the transsexuals, and then they have sailors. It was kind of a different paradise for, for like a red district, a red light district, but it is not red light district. I always find that there was a fascination to it.
And what about actors or real people you involved in the project back then?
Yeah.
There's someone that now is missing.
Because this movie is very unusual, because although this movie, we shot the movie with Panavision equipment, that is the best camera equipment. And we had a huge amount of lighting shipped from Hong Kong to Singapore to do the lighting. So on the surface, it's like a very serious, a very big production. But on the other side, the actors I want to use, it's all real people. I mean, they have no acting experience. So we did spend a lot of time on doing the casting for the people, the Linda and the Shaja and the Sophie and all those people. We spent a lot of time doing the casting. But I must have to say that this movie is seeing through this whole different world from an innocent girl. And so the innocent girl, I use Hip Tai Lei, and she's a Vietnamese. She was freshly from Oliver Stone's Hollywood big production, Heaven and Earth. And she was the leading girl. And when I met her in Singapore, I talked to her about this movie, and I said, would you like to voice for the minorities? She said, I'm very happy to do so, and this is my responsibility, because we are all minorities in this world. We have to help each other. She was a Vietnamese refugee, and I was very touched by her, so we started making the movie. And she was wonderful in this movie, and everybody loves her. And this is really touching, because my assistant director, who was a handsome guy, and he falls in love with Hip, was all hidden in the nobody knows. And well, I think probably they have a secret affair during the shooting or not, nobody knows. But then there was one scene that Hip was hurt her ankle because of the running. And my assistant director, Jing, all of a sudden, he shouted at me and shouted at me. I was shocked, and I said, my God, I'm the director, you're the assistant, but I don't fire you because I know that is love. And so, now, then everybody knows they are in love, and then when the film finished, and he went to America to court her, and then study cinema, become a movie director. They got married with 2 children, and very sadly, she passed away 2017 at a very young age of 41 or 42, and then her husband starts changing. And we see that he was wearing big sunglasses, and he grows his hair longer, and then we know that he's changing into a woman, and now she's a woman. And so that is, I feel very, very touched by the whole thing, because she is the true Boogie Street. Because for all the dialogues I write, seems it's from his mouth, from Jing's mouth. It just comes alive. It's a very strange experience. I think it's fantastic.
Anybody here?
May I help you?
This is my passport. Don't be surprised. The sex is male, and the name is Dragon. And I'd like to have a room with a view.
By the day or by the hour?
It's timeless. It all depends how long I will stay. And by the way, these are my luggage. Do handle with care. They're from Paris. They're Louis Vuitton.
What about costume design and set design? Because it's another.
Fabulous, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and this movie, actually, I think this movie is an art, because for me, because this movie, because in this movie, the period is the 1960s, but I would use many of the things that doesn't belong to the 60s, but I put in this movie. For instance, like you have Bruce Lee's posters in the movie, and then you have Teresa Tan's records, things like that doesn't belong to that period, but it doesn't matter, because it is kind of my touch of artistry. It's surreal, yeah. So that is happened the same time in number 7 Cherry Lane. I have many things that drawn specially for the scenes that doesn't belong to the 60s. Probably some shops that belong to the 90s were in the movie, but it is my signature. I think that the costumes and everything, it's free, because I think that if you copied everything exactly to that period, it is just a fake antique. But with a different touch, then it became art.
Last time you told me about the Buddha soup, that it's full of different ingredients. And
yeah. Buddha's delight.
Yes.
Buddha's delight. 佛跳墙, yeah.